It's Tulane week. We get to take on the Green Wave. We're going to talk about that and what we need to do here on the Sooner or Later Sports Show. Thank y'all for pulling up. I'm your host, Jay. You got Coop. Thanks for pulling up here on the YouTube channel and listening wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. While you're here, please wipe your feet, like, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5 stars. You think we deserve it? Let's give us 5 anyway, and gift it. Did all this mess up? It messed up, didn't it? That's crazy. All right, let me get y'all over to the new link to where we should be at. That's always, I hate it when that happens. Coop, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, just I'm in enemy territory. I'm in Austin, Texas for a client meeting, and just filled up myself with some good Austin barbecue and enjoying myself a little hotel life.
That's awesome. Let me send everybody here. The link doesn't work. So we're going to go ahead and help the people out. I had to fix everything. Happy Wednesday, though. But you're in enemy territory. I'm glad that you're able to pull up. You didn't have to... suffer too much down there. We got a lot to talk about, man. We're going to dive into, as y'all saw in the notes, we're going to talk about what's next for our guy, J.A., the defense, what it needs to do to carry us, and, kind of go from there. So, Coop, as you know, the Green Wave is right in front of us. I'm pretty excited about this one. It's one of those that we need. How do you feel about us going up against Tulane? Let's start there. As we've had sorry, I'm all discombobulated because everything got messed up for some reason. The team is still trying to figure themselves out. Figure out the offensive side of the ball. The defense seems solid. The offense needs to be figured out. How do you feel about us going into Tulane this week?
I mean, you're starting to look around, and I mean, the line on the game from ESPN has us favored, against Tennessee next week, and so they think that, we're going to get some stuff figured out, and so against Tulane this week, which is the task at hand. You got to be able to get back to what we talked about on Sunday. You got to get back to your identity, get Jackson in a flow, and whenever you get a chance to to prove yourself, that's when winners rise to the occasion. Maybe the mentality having, what happened last week, maybe that gets some people a little bit more excited. Obviously health is going to help out, but we asked for a dominant defense. We asked for a defense who is going to be able to go in and do stuff. Now we got it. Now we just need the offense to catch up. And at this point, I feel like we've got everything. You've still got everything in front of you, right? Nobody's going to look back. If you go in your handle business, nobody's going to look back at that last game and say, yeah, but they only won by 2 points, especially with, you're seeing some parity across college football with Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois, how Florida State started
still
out.
Wild to me.
Yeah, all these other things. So, would you rather win 75-0 over Houston? Sure. But the last time Houston pulled up to the crib in 2016, we went down there with Bob Stoops as the coach, Baker Mayfield as the quarterback, and we lost to them. So we made this one happen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I know a lot of people in the comment section are already asking the question, can we turn around this offense? And so let's jump into that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the defense. And like I said, we'll jump into what we need to see from our guy, Jackson Arnold. And so Stephen Lonker asked this question, which is solid. Hey, hi, Boomer, what do you think about OU's offense? Do you think they can turn it around? And so, Coop, I bring this to you immediately. Jackson Arnold's the main attention when it comes to what's going on with Oklahoma, especially offensively. And it's not because, some people think that he's not playing very well. Others think he needs to be benched. Me over here, just like yourself, we knew that as a young quarterback, it was going to take some time. We need to give him a little bit more grace. And it's not that Seth Luttrell's not calling the plays. It's that now Jackson Arnold's also running an offense with a whole bunch of new wide receivers. So things have changed. So to me, this is what I'm thinking, Coop. And I want you to tell me what you think and then give us, what you think Jackson should do. But I feel like then this game is going to be the most pivotal one for JA to, if Nick, in which right now it sounds like Nick Anderson is a possibility of playing. Same thing with Andrew Anthony, but nothing official. If it's him and the young guys, he's going to have to guide them to where they need to be throughout the entire game. Like, he's going to have to almost borderline get on one knee, draw out the play in the ground, in the dirt, so that everybody can be in the right positions, because he understands the play. He understands the formation. And the biggest thing I know he understands is how to read defenses. Not all wide receivers are good at that, especially young ones. It takes time to develop that skill. So, Coop, do you feel like JA should take more responsibility in helping his receivers in game? Because I know in prepping for the game, you can do only so much. You got to wait and see what the defense actually hands you. Do you think that he needs to really step up and adjust the wide receivers as the game goes on?
As the quarterback, I mean, the leader of the defense is the quarterback of the defense. The leader of the offensive line is the quarterback of the offensive line. So the quarterback himself needs to be that guy across the whole offense. Yeah. Jackson Arnold was given the reins of this team, and he needs to become that more vocal leader. And I think leadership comes in more, in all kinds of forms and fashions. Baker Mayfield was an extremely vocal leader, where Kyler Murray was not that type of guy. So that means, I mean, whether, you've got all the time in the world, in between plays, I guess not all the time in the world, but you can have those conversations. You can get out there and really show them what you're seeing. He needs to step up. I mean, he absolutely does. No excuses. Get out there and make some of these things happen. And I think that with the chaos on the offensive line, the subpar blocking by some of the skill positions, having a bunch of, smaller guys out there at wide receiver, having some of the, new guys like Zion Ragens, who's, kind of forced into action because of these injuries. He needs to control what he can control, and that is, the chemistry between him and these wide receivers. So if you see a guy break inside and then, you threw the ball outside, you need to, after the play, be, just be clear and concise. I need you to break outside on that one. I saw this. This is what I'm seeing. Go to the sideline, have those things, because you need to get better every snap, every drive, every game. And so I think that those are the things he absolutely has to take a bigger part of this. And, I respect him by saying, I can play better. I need to play better. But at the same time, like, I used to have a sales guy on my team, and every single time we'd sit down with him, I would say, this is what I need you to do. This is what I need you to do. This is what I need you to do. And he would always give me that, like, you're right. I do need to do better. I got to be a better person at here. I got to do these things better. And then he would not go out and do it. And so he needs to actually go out and do it, because I love hearing the vocal and the verbal, but now I need to see it in action form.
Yeah, the lip service is always great, right? I love the accountability up front, but show me your accountability too. That's the other thing that I've expected from Jackson Arnold. And it feels like he's at that point, right? He's at that point where he's going to go out there. I've heard that he's been vocal in practices. I mean, I think he's been vocal from the beginning, but if anything, he choose players out and get on to them like, hey, I need this out of you. I need that out of you. And I promise, if he gets that from them, we will see a better team. But we got to get him to push. And let me clarify this for you all. I'm not putting everything on Jackson Arnold's shoulders fully, right?
Exactly.
Brent Venables is going to do his part. Seth Luttrell is going to do his part, but you still got to have a leader at running back. And it was mentioned in here a minute ago by Chester Carter. It's a great point. DeMarco Murray was the leader of Landry Jones' teams. It's a good point, right? We need someone to come in there, walk into that locker room and say, hey, let's get our stuff together and let's make it happen. Offensively, I know we can do it. Now, this is the caveat. And Coop, you're exactly right on the lip service and what we need to see actually happen. The fascinating thing with this is that going into spring and fall camp, we had all of our starting wide receivers. We had just lost Troy Everett, so we brought in Branson Hickman, so we need another center, right? We had to bring in an additional piece of depth to go with all the young freshmen we have. But we had all our wide receivers ready to go, except for I think Jalil Farouk was sitting out because of his foot. Nick was was playing at the beginning of fall camp, but then came out, and he's been out for about 5 weeks now. You had most of the experience on the field, but then you lost Jaden Gibson. Andrew Anthony wasn't able to go. Jalil Farouk comes back, breaks his foot, and he's gone. So losing the players that you were going to throw the ball to, that you were throwing it to in spring camp, it kind of derails things. And it's not that the backup wide receivers aren't good. They just don't have the experience yet. That is where we're running into the, oh, shoot, we're learning things all over again. And that's kind of why I've been trying to make sure I'm telling you all, and why I'm pushing for the leadership of Jackson Arnold is he's borderline the most veteran dude when it comes to looking at this offense, right? When you bring in new people, Deion Burks is out there just to go run and catch balls, right? They have chemistry. I see that J.J. Hester had a little chemistry, but he kept dropping passes in the first game, and so he got demoted. We need him back. We need the size to go along with the 4.4 speed to be more of a threat with Burks. So, but let's talk about that running back room, Coop. What we need to do to get those running backs going. Because that, to me, is if there's anything worrisome, Jackson Arnold is worrisome to me. I just need him to be the leader. Just he has to grow up faster than he wants. But that running back room, man, it just doesn't feel like nobody fully wants it yet. What's going on with that running back room? Can we get Sawchuk and Barnes going? Can Sam Franklin make something happen? Is Taylor Tatum actually ready? How do you feel about the room?
Right now, Javonte Barnes is the best running back on this team.
Period.
he is the one who he's 2 years ago Javonte. He is that Florida State game Javonte. He is back to normal. He is feeling himself. And so if I'm Javonte, this is now my time to shine. I've got the opportunity. There's a gap here. There's a spot to be taken. And we do need to see the running back room is going to get a lot of help if we can loosen up the field. Houston knew there was no chance that, after a few plays, there was not much of a chance that we were going to be throwing the ball down. They saw game one. They crowded the box. Everything was in 15 yards. And, last game we did open it up a tiny bit, but, we were missing on those things. I think there's a lot of Jackson was really, really late on some stuff. So as we can continue to see more, more side to side game, I think it does open it up. And, I think we've talked about this is, if I get my way, I would say let's pitch the RPOs, because if there's not a threat of the pass, then that RPO doesn't really, function very well. And those guys are jamming up the wide receivers, the right off. But there's a lot of times to where the wide receivers have these 7-8 yard cushions, turn the ball, throw it, and then, let's be satisfied with, a 5 or 6 yard gain until you want to, maybe have a stutter step and go deep. But with the running back specifically, you saw Javonte run off tackle, run to the outside, and it was successful. You gotta have the blocking. You gotta know what's going on. I can promise you that that's something they've been practicing on. You also need to see some of the more running back swing passes and the running back, pass game. That can only work if blocking on the outside is tight.
Yep.
And I don't know if we really ever got the opportunity to do that last week, because you had Brandon Thompson, Deion Burks, and Zion Ragens out there. All these guys are 5'8" and below, and they were getting eaten up. And so you're not going to call that if you know that you did it one time and it's getting blown up. Bauer Sharp, same situation. If you're going to flex out a tight end, you need to be able to block the defensive back or the nickel back or, the smaller linebacker in these early game cases. You have to. It's not an option. You have to do this. And so if you cannot, then, I say you throw Cade McIntyre out there, or, you flex out Jake Roberts and you let him take on some of those opportunities. But the linebackers the running backs absolutely have to get out there and be able to go side to side, because if you cannot stretch the whole field and you're just jamming it back up the middle and it's not working, I just don't know if you see that become an asset for them. I think that as you get, Petaway back, he dinged himself up early last week. He couldn't practice. And so if you can't practice, you can't play. That's a philosophy with this coaching staff. And so, yeah, I mean, we got to have the blocking. And so it is every single one of these guys, doesn't matter if it's running back, Jackson Arnold, wide receiver, tight end, you have to fulfill your job and do it well. And you don't have to PFF at 100 every single snap that you're on the field, but you sure as hell can't get blown up. And you sure as hell can't whiff on a guy, because I coach, my daughter's soccer team. And I say, listen, all you got to do is just touch the ball, because if you do not at least touch the ball, now you are out of the play and people running the other way because the ball's coming out the other way. It's the same thing with blocking. Is if you throw a running back swing route, or if you want to run out to the edge, but there's a block that's not made at all, it doesn't matter what the play call is. It's not Seth Luttrell situation. It's not a Jackson Arnold situation. Then that's a blocking situation. So every single person needs to be able to look at themselves and go, hey, listen, for this play, this is my job, and I have to do it correctly.
Yep. All right, so back to the running back room here. I'm looking at, it seems like Sawchuk just can't get it going early. Yeah. Barnes is running the hardest. You said you consider him the best back because he is running the hardest. It looks like he's trying to get himself back into that freshman year shape period. When Franklin got in, he was making some nice cuts. It seemed like he was ready. Yeah. And then Taylor Tatum, when he got the runs, he was awesome. Some of his blocking was kind of questionable, right? And you got to be able to do both. To me, it feels like your rotation has to be Barnes. It's probably going to be Barnes, Franklin, Sawchuk, Tatum. Because you kind of want Sawchuk going. Because when Sawchuk gets going, he's going to dip for 60, 70 yards. He always gets you a big run. Is that crazy to think that would be a good rotation? Or do we really want to pull Tatum up outside of two-back sets? I do want Tatum in for the two-back sets. But as far as like rotation goes, how does that sound to you?
That sounds good. But there's more than grabbing the ball and running the ball from the running backs. And you saw Tatum absolutely get Jackson blown up by a wrong assignment. And DeMarco's not going to allow you to be on the field. And so for everybody saying, like, let's lift up, Taylor Tatum because of that sprint option touchdown at the end of the game in week 1, like there's so much more to that running back game than that. Now, if you're in the two-back set and he doesn't have a blocking pattern, fine, that's great. But at the same time is if you know that blocking is an issue for him and you don't see him on situations where he can block, it's super telling. And if you want to see the offense struggle more, let everybody know what's going to happen. And so if he comes out there and, he's been whiffing on blocks, then the first time that they see that number, trot out there, that's going to be a situation. So, and you know what, if one of these guys can't get it happening, now we, maybe see a Caleb Hicks come out because, he's still someone who we haven't really seen yet. And I don't know what the story with him is. I mean, obviously everybody wants to jump to a conclusion that it might be a injury situation, but you've got explosive backs, and we just now have to see the cumulative, execution happen all around.
I agree. And that's where I'm at. I just need everybody to execute. And so to me, some of the ways that we can do that, we've seen it here in the chat. Some folks have made mention of it. Thank y'all for pulling up. Appreciate it. I'm reading through the chat. I'm looking through it at the same time while we're both talking, but adding some screens, adding some I just want to dink and dunk in this game. Get Jackson Arnold's arm warmed up. We know he can launch it. It seems like he's been nervous about launching it. Get him a little warmed up, but I need to get the running backs more involved. I want them in space. I know that Barnes is dangerous in space. I know Sawchuk, whenever you give him enough space, he's going to outrun everybody, and that's what we're waiting on, right? I think Sam Franklin's a solid one out of space. Same thing with Taylor Tatum. We know that he can catch. He's really good at catching. So launching him out is going to be solid. I think that's something to think about. So back to the wide receivers, and before we jump right over to the defensive side of the ball, if Nick Anderson and Andrell Anthony plays in this game, how do you feel about the Sooners' chances of covering the spread?
I mean, obviously it makes you feel better immediately. Now, what did we see out of Andrell in week 1? We saw some rust. Nick's been out for 5 weeks now,
Yep,
and
5 weeks.
4 or 5 weeks, and so maybe there's going to be some rust. I don't think that dude's going to walk in and throw up an 8 catch, 185-yard game with 3 touchdowns or anything like that. But I just absolutely think that you bring him out there. Jackson has some familiarity and some confidence with him. I think that when you put another proven threat, even before he's walked out there, it loosens up the field for Deion Burks. You get a chance. 9 catches for 50 some odd yards. That's not what Deion Burks came here to do. He came to do the spring game stuff where he's flying deep. We saw it in fall practice. He's going deep. And so, I think that if Jackson is, the wide receivers production is going to be strictly tied to Jackson, but at the same time, wide receivers, Deion Burks on that post route, he did not run the correct route. He
even said it. Yeah.
He floated it, and it left Jackson out to dry. Now, was he not expecting the ball? You got to expect the ball as a wide receiver to hit your hands every single time. So, there's a lot of accountability on every single one of these position groups. But wide receivers, block well, run your correct route, and then always be ready. So Jackson's going to have to be able to take a check down. He's going to have to be able to see 1, 2, and then do something with the ball instead of running around and swallowing it. So, but if Andrew Anthony and Nick Six come back, it immediately puts more threats out there on the field versus guys who are playing their first or second college game.
Yeah, we'll say it was an ABR. Always be ready, receiving.
Always be receiving, always be ready. Whatever you want to do, whatever acronym, catch the damn ball.
With that ABR, because usually ABC, always be closing. As salespeople, you're always be closing. I think the wide receivers should always be closing their hands on the ball and bringing it in. But I think we'll be fine. Long term, I don't think that this is something that's a concern, because we're going to talk about the side of the ball that's cooking it, which is the defensive side. So we'll jump into that. Thank y'all for pulling up. Hit that like button, new to the channel. Subscribe. If you're listening, rate, review, give us 5 stars. Go ahead and wipe your feet, people. Please wipe your feet. We appreciate that. Defensively, look, Coop, going into spring ball, I said this at that time, and I didn't say this as like hyperbole or trying to deflect about anything. No, I said that we were going to ride this defense. The defense was going to be the most critical component of what we do on this team. And Coop, it looks like that's exactly what it is. As we're navigating the injury bug around on the offensive side, the defense has, as we would say, competitive depth, where they have roughly almost 3 deep. Linebacker, we're 3 deep. Secondary, we're 2 deep. As much as I love the freshmen, they can be lured into making those mistakes. Defensive line, we're at least 2 deep, maybe 3. We may be 3 deep there as well of talent that can play. But there was a question in here, Mike. What's going on, Mike? I'm glad that you pulled up of a Sooner Legends. He asked about our guy, Dasan McCullough. When will we get to see him? And I'm going to be honest, I don't expect to see him until maybe Tennessee. Right?
Maybe
I know
Auburn.
Maybe Auburn. I know he's getting over that foot injury. But at the same time, though, I think he could play this weekend if we actually bring out our defense, right? If we bring out the actual defensive sets we want to do, where we go with like the odd, we go to like the 3-3-5 looks, or we bring out the additional linebacker, there's a chance you could see some Dasan McCullough, especially if he's healthy. They may go ahead and play him. It's no guarantee, but there's a chance. Coop, when you're looking at this defensive line, man, what do you want to see out of them in this game against Tulane? Because me personally, I need to see more pressure on Mensah. I need y'all to make him make more mistakes.
You want to see the continuation of the interior line. Last week, they ran 12 personnel. I'm pretty sure that I said this a few times, that they were going to run 12 personnel and they're going to max protect. And that's exactly what happened. And they wanted to dink and dunk the ball down the field which they did. You know, we probably are not seeing that this week because that's not a base concept that they're going to try to run at us. But I think starting first and foremost, you get right up the middle. You continue that pressure with DJ Terry, with Jaden Jackson, you know, Dom Williams, Grayson Halton. Those guys have started making a living in the backfield, and you want to see more of that. You want to see the edges. The edges have not had the opportunities yet. They have not. And it's not because of anything that it's their fault. So if you said like, hey, listen, I'm annoyed, I'm not seeing anything on this edge room, Miguel Chavis can't develop players, like pump the brakes. That's not the case. There has not been a situation. There haven't been 5-step drops. There have not been many 3-step drops. It has been stand up, throw the ball. It has been sprint out, you know, and throw the ball. And so you want to see the edges continue to, when it's time to set the edge and to make sure that you keep integrity on your lane and your assignment, continue that. So I think that that's what I want to see out of the defense, because when you do that, that allows this linebacker core, which is one of the best in the country, to continue to do what they're doing.
No, I agree. And that's right. That's exactly what I'm seeing too. Is the edges what it is? The edges are collapsing the pocket, and the defensive tackles are taking the sack.
Yeah.
Or they're dumping it. Right? They're getting rid of the ball as quickly as possible, which, I mean, to their credit, is smart. That's what you're supposed to do. Take what they're giving you in that scenario.
Yeah. As far as the safeties, defensive backs, those guys just need to continue to do what they've been doing, is always be ready. Always have your eye, your eye discipline. The only, really the touchdown that we gave up was Kobe McKenzie. Or I guess the only big play was Kobe McKenzie in week 1. This past week was a situation to where RSJ, he admitted that, he got his eye discipline went sideways. But again, I will say this, and I'll pause on this one, Jay, because how many offensive players have we made look stellar to where OU fans were like, that guy's going to be good. He's an NFL player and he's going to be really, really good. And then the next week they show up and they do absolutely zero. Like that has not happened yet. And that is a staple of our defense over the past 5 to 10 years, is making somebody had a field day against our defense. We haven't seen that yet. And I don't think that you're going to see this even running out of the base defense. So the defensive backs just need to continue to do what they're doing. Is, they're not going to give up these big plays. Will they give up a 6-yard route or a 7-yard route? Sure. But I think we were talking about on the spaces the other day. The only thing that I really, really want to see is the continuation of people swarming to the ball. Is when you see peak Clemson defense and peak Alabama defense, it looks like they're blitzing on almost every single play because the swarming to the ball is just out of control. You got 5, 6, 7 guys, within screenshot of the ball on the TV broadcast. And so I want to continue to see that. I want to see these guys' intensity wrap up to where you want to almost act like it is running in practice and last one, is the rotten egg or whatever. Like, continue that swarming piece, because that is going to be something that I want to continue to see.
I'm totally here with you that. And there was a question in here that I thought was a very good question. Where are you? There was one in here that I felt like was a critical one for us to talk about. Where did it go? There it is, from Lance. I thought I started, but I did not start. Thank you. How many OU players got game time against Houston? 18 offensive guys played, 27 defensive guys played in that game. That's 45 players. That's 2 full rosters, basically, for the most part. Especially defensively. We played a lot of people on the defensive side of the ball. I think, what was the game 1? We had 80. How many players we played in game 1?
84
84
total.
Players played in game 1, right? So let me put it this way. And I don't want y'all to shoot the messenger. I just want y'all to hear me out when I say this, right? Coop, don't give my ideas. But hear me when I say this. A lot of you have said that you want to see young players play, right? A lot of you have said, give some of the young pups a chance and let them go out there. They go out there and they make a mistake. Then you want them out the game. If you want the young players to play, be prepared for them to make mistakes, because that's how you gain experience, right? And like you said, wandering eye. Defense is always about the wandering eye. That was the one thing I had said to our guy Ty over there around the table sports on Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, best safety in the game. He was baited the first like 4 or 5 games of the season by the defenses. They just kept trying. They're catching those eyes, because what happens with young guys is they want to go out there and they want to make a play.
Yeah.
And sometimes they abandon the screen, the abandon the scheme. And that's where the problem goes.
Texas worked Caleb Downs. I mean, they made a living off of working Caleb Downs last year, early in the season. And so, I mean, that's, with some of these young kids, I mean, we're already starting to see it. I mean, you got, already Lewis Carter, he's out there as one of the rotating guys at linebacker. So he's in there making his deal. Samuel Masigo is a guy who hasn't had a ton of playing time. He made some really, really great reads and tackles for loss last week. Eli Bowen has been banged up a little bit, but I think that he should be ready to get in and get some time. You're seeing Jacoba Johnson out there, and if there's been a cornerback that has had any mistakes, it's been him. But he is learning on the fly. I think this defense is good enough to now with the cumulative team discipline and concept and understanding of what Zach Allen and Brent Venables are trying to run. You've got the capability to roll in something and to give somebody more opportunity. So, I don't mind young guys going in there and getting a few pieces, getting them some screen time, because these guys are earning it. They're not getting thrown out there because they were a 4-star recruit. They're earning it because they're going out in practice and they're playing and they're proving that they deserve an opportunity. So I'm fine with that. But I mean, on defense, I can say, like, nobody has earned the spot nobody has lost their job on defense at this point in the season. Everybody has played to the spot you're going to have a failure here. You're going to have a failure there. You saw it even Georgia Clemson. There were guys giving up, bombs along the sideline, and Clemson couldn't capitalize it. And I think that that's the number one thing about this defense right now has been, Jay, when we make an error, we don't make another one and then another one and another one. We don't allow that avalanche like we've seen in the past.
That is the funny thing, is that we've done a really good job about that. We're not allowing that one problem to continue to fester over us as much. Now, it does happen occasionally. One thing that we did see was the RSJ, the deep pass that kind of went on him, and he pointed out, because what it was, Brent Venables mentioned that they didn't get the play out to him fast enough, and it was because it was after the pass interference was called on Woody Washington's interception, which still just
that was interception. Refs. That was an interception.
Big 12 refs.
I've heard experts from across the country say that's an interception. That's perfect ball. I heard Gabe and Teddy say it. I've heard several other people say that was great. That was great. And, of course, these coaching staff, they can't say anything. They don't want to get fined. They don't want to piss other people off. But, again, we know what that is. That's Big 12 refs.
Yeah, exactly. They get us every time. And so, all right, so defensively, overall, there was a question asked in here, which was good by our guy Dominic. Thank you for pulling up per the norm. Who's our biggest threat? Who's the biggest Tulane's biggest threat to us? And there's 2. Going to be Mario Williams, because he's their best wide receiver, 10 catches, 252 yards. We talked about that. But it's Mensah, that their quarterback. And the good thing about Mensah is Mensah's going to go out there and make some mistakes.
Yeah.
Now, this is the game where we're going to see the test. And our guy Truth up in here, he's right. This is where we're going to get that work. This is going to be the game where Tulane's going to try to bend us. And if our secondary shows out in this game, cancel Christmas. We've got a defense that we need. This is the one, because Mensah's going to try to launch it. He's going to try to pass it all over us. They're going to even try deep. I'm ready to see if our DBs are ready for those deep passes. Mario Williams is fast, but if you bracket him properly, have a safety high ready for that, I think Robert Spears-Jennings can do it, man. How do you feel about us going up against that explosive Tulane passing game?
I mean, you've got several of these guys who have played against Mario Williams. They've seen him, they've seen what his tendencies are, so they've got familiarity with Mario. Um, and I just have to say that, like, this is a situation where if things go our way and go the way that, like, we've been practicing, and this defense, when they are tested, you've got three safeties that you're very, very confident in. Very
Yep.
confident in. So I think it's less about the defensive backs and the safeties this week as it is about the linebacker drops. Is you have to have the appropriate linebacker drops, because if these corners these corners, Kendall Dolby, Omasigo, when he's out there, if these guys can rely and understand and believe that the linebacker is going to have the appropriate drops, they worry about the deep. And then if the defensive backs are worried about the deep, then you also know that you're going to have Peyton Bowen, RSJ, Billy Bowman back at behind you. So you never feel like you're truly in a one-on-one situation. So I think that's it. Is the linebackers can do a lot in this game to give the defensive backs the freedom to play how they want to play. Now, if you don't get the correct drops and you're getting a lot of these dinks and these 8-yard outs and these middle plays to where the linebackers, you don't drop, and then they can drop in. Mensah can just drop it back up over the top of the linebacker. Now the defensive back has a lot more of the field to play, and so I want to see that, because I think that's going to help out.
Agreed. And they're going to be probably leveraging that tight end. Topher in here pointed this out, which is a very good one to point out. Alex Ballman, their tight end. Now, granted, looking at their room, hold a second. Let me see if I got this bad boy here. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull this up here for the people to look at. These are the numbers for them right now, right? Looks a little small. Let me zoom that in for y'all, right?
That's what she said.
They've only got dudes. You got Mario, you got Dante Fleming, right? And these are the averages as far as the numbers go. But most of their touchdowns are scored by that tight end, Alex Ballman. That is who Mensah likes to go to. Mensah statistically, their run game though, Mekhi Hughes, not a bad outing, 35 carries, 187 yards. Then they've got a couple of other guys that come in and also put up some numbers, but Darren Mensah, even though shockingly, Mensah's only got 10 carries for 5 yards. So he doesn't actually quote unquote scramble. Well, he doesn't quote unquote run. He just scrambles a lot. Like he moves around the pocket. And the great point here is that Mensah's going to be great prep before we face Nico. Because the thing with Nico is, like, I like Elam Leava. Like, I think Nico's going to be a beast in this college football game. It was him and Jackson Arnold were my favorite quarterbacks in that class, period, right? And if y'all know me, if you've been around long enough, you know Tennessee was always my SEC school. Now that we're in the SEC, they're now going to be second tier underneath, because it's Oklahoma plays Tennessee. Oklahoma's my squad. But anybody else that Tennessee plays, I'm rooting for the Vols. That's always been since I was a kid. But Heupel is the one that we've got to really be paying attention to, right? Heupel's their quarterback right now. Nothing against Nico. Heupel's making that bad boy easy for the man. And we know that's the system, right? That's what you're supposed to do, especially for a young dude. If you go look at Nico's numbers, they're okay. Thinking about Tennessee, and we're going to talk about them next week, dog, their defense is good. Like, I'm a little nervous about that defense. That defense is good.
I have been.
That defense is good. That defense is good. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like and how we're going to be able to respond against them. But going back to Tulane, I was surprised that Mensah actually won the job. He's completing 70% of his passes right now, right? Averaging 13 yards a play. He's got a 68-yard pass to Mario Williams. Wasn't a touchdown, but a 68 yards. He's put up some numbers. He's been sacked 5 times.
Yeah.
But he's still putting up some really good numbers at 70% completion. To me, we've got to be prepared for the gauntlet. Summerall's going to be creative against us. And when I say creative. But I don't know. That Viren shoot's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting when we get to Tennessee. But I think when it comes to Tulane, though, Coop, if we can keep the pressure on Mensah, he's going to make the mistakes we need.
And I've watched the Mensah, film. You want to watch the Kansas State game? I mean, that first game, he pretty much did what he wanted to do. But I mean, he will hold the ball and he will wait, and he'll wait too long. With those 5 sacks, that's the one thing is, he knows what his bread and butter. It is the Yankee style of offense, to where he is going to, he doesn't care if he strikes out and gets a sack, because he'll get it straight back up. So it doesn't matter. I think that you're going to have to be ready as the defensive backs to be ready to cover deep on first down, on second down, on third down, and on fourth and short. You've got to be ready to do that. And if you are not ready for those things, then you haven't been paying attention to the film. But the great thing for this defensive line is this might be the first time that you get a chance to see, these edges get to rush upfield, and you continue to push it up. I said this multiple times, but when we dominated Texas Tech during the Mike Leach years, the Kingsbury years, all of those things, when we did very, very well, it came from pressure up the middle. That is the first thing that blows up that very, very quick offense. And so continue to do that up front, the proper linebacker drops, and then these defensive backs need to be ready to play the ball deep every single down.
Yep. Interesting. Just saw something popping up on the timeline. We'll talk about this probably on Sunday after the game, but our guy Red Dirt Sports posted a agenda piece for the Board of Regents for renovations to Gaylord Family Oakland Memorial Stadium. It's a master plans update. Sounds like they're looking at doing some actual renovations there. We'll talk about that once we get more details. We'll wait on the good reporters to actually report the details for us, because they're reporters. We're fans. We're here talking ball because that's what we do best. He said noodle arms. He need to get a sandwich. All right, Coop, what's your bold prediction for this game? Boldest stuff.
I think that this is a game that, based off of what we've seen this far, I expect this first half to be something where we see some good execution on offense. So I think that we're going to have ourselves a good first half. I think that we're going to have it on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I think that some adjustments will be made to what we're doing in the second half, and it may not be a big runaway game, but this is a game to where I want to say that if you can win this game, 15 to 20 points, that's nothing to, shake your head at. And I know that's not what anybody wants to hear, but you need to absolutely see this game as one to where you want to see successes happening, throughout the game. Is it a fact that can we hold the ball for 7 or 8 minutes on a drive and maybe attempt a field goal? That's not a loss. This team is going to be one on offense that you got to continue to make improvements week to week. I don't see a jump from, the score that we had last week to, throwing up 75 points this week. I don't see that happening. So I'm going to go with, you want your defense to continue to do what you're doing. I think Tulane has a little bit more capability to take advantage of a short field if our offense does not, continue to improve in certain situations. So I mean, if we see something like a 37-17 or something like that, that's a great win in this situation.
Right. I don't see us scoring a bunch. My score prediction is still around 28-10, maybe 27-10. I like this one from Garrett. I'm around there, 27-28-10. I think it's going to be lower scoring, but I think I have 2 bold predictions here. Well, 3. One, I think that we lead the time of possession because we actually get a running game going and we establish something. We control the ball. I think we get a defensive touchdown. And I think that we get a 100-yard rusher for the first time this season. I don't know who, though. I just think one of them. If I had to pick somebody, I think it's going to be Barnes. I feel like he's running the hardest. I think that he wants it the most, and you can tell that he's trying to bounce back hard from last year. Like last year's injury that messed with his head. He even said it in an interview.
Very, very
I
much.
think he's trying to bounce that back. I think he really wants to bounce that back.
Yeah, I would say this is I think that we see, a 5+ sack game this week. So not by an individual, obviously, but like I think that we see 5 or more sacks. I think that they're going to, if Tulane comes out and plays the game that they've been playing, that I think that's an easy stat. I think if Tulane comes out and tries to do more what Houston has done and what Temple has done, maybe that number is harder to get. But I don't know if they've got the discipline to continue to do that. And here's my – I think we put the clamps on Mario Williams. I don't think that this staff – I don't think that these players who have the familiarity with him want to see him come back in and do something, and make a name for himself or prove a point. And that's nothing against the kid. He followed. He was a young kid who decided to follow the coach that he committed to. Like I got nothing against him for that part. But I think that this staff wants to. This staff and these players want to prove a point.
Yeah, this is a game. This is a statement game. And as our guy Truth in here points out, this is the game where we show what our secondary looks like. And I need this secondary to show out, and hit some folks. Offensive line, I know that we're going to hear more this week. BV will probably talk about what to expect with that. I anticipate that coming down the line in the next day or two. Hopefully we get some depth chart information. That stuff is still kept under wraps, unfortunately, but we should find out. The good thing for us, too, is, we got this game, we get Tennessee, we get Auburn, we get a break. We get some rest, and we get to really recoup and figure out what the heck is going to go for the rest of the season. But we're going to wrap this bad boy up, put a bow on it, let Coop get back to relaxing there as he's traveling and doing important people stuff, making money and doing the big things. Exactly. Look at him. He's looking like Chuck Norris out there. Thank y'all for pulling up. Please hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe. Rate, review, give us 5. All right, we will definitely chop it up with y'all after the game. Videos will probably come over the next couple of days, as like they always do. But with that, we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.